Right, I'm ready.
Hello, today I have the lovely Peter with me. Hi, Peter. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name's Peter. I am a self-published cozy mystery author. You may have seen me being interviewed by Donna before. I write the Edward Crisps murder mystery series. My first book was Who Killed Miss Finch, about a horrible head teacher that gets killed. And then I've had a couple more books in the series as well.
I think this is your third time back with me, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah. I think I was interviewed probably about a year ago as I was releasing Snow Day Murders. And then I think in kind of June time, when Death in the Closet came, I think it's the first time that I've had an interview where I've not got a new book out. This is my reminding everyone that I exist interview.
As if anyone could forget. So do you want to tell everyone about all the books that you have actually released so far?
Yeah, so I just mentioned briefly, I write the Edward Crisp mystery series. Edward is at first a somewhat reluctant amateur detective who he's a school librarian who has a bit of a fascination with old Agatha Christie style murder mysteries, along with his teenage assistant librarian Noah, who has Asperger's, autism, and is also kind of quite obsessed with murder mysteries, so much so that he's convinced that they are going to end up in a real life murder mystery and they will be the detectives to solve it. They're both in a school, Noah being a student and Edward being the school librarian that's just been taken over by an academy with a horrible head teacher. And lo and behold, the horrible head teacher gets murdered and Noah gets his wish of being his own real life murder mystery. And the two are kind of dragged in to investigating the murder. And it goes from there. So that first one is Who Killed Miss Finch. It's been out for about 18 months now. I've been really pleased with it. It's done really well. So much so that I was able to go part-time in my teaching career at the start of this year. It's written both for adults and young adults. I'm quite inspired by Agatha Christie. And one thing I've noticed whenever anyone talks about Agatha Christie, like you see any kind of famous authors, lots of people always say that they got into her when they were a teenager. And I kind of quite like the idea of writing something for all ages, and especially being an English teacher and being keen on kind of promoting literacy and things like that. So I deliberately write my books in kind of a simple style that young people will like, and also maybe for adults who maybe don't read as much as they should. So really, I do kind of write with promoting reading in mind, and also there's the school setting, education setting as well, and the teenage co-main character, which also appeals to young people. The second book, which came out in January last year, is probably because of the time of year the one I'm going to plug the most today, and that is The Snow Day Murders. So that was my second book. Again, I was inspired by kind of lots of classic mysteries where people are snowed in, like Murder on the Orient Express or Agatha Christie's Sitterford Mystery, where everyone's snowed in. And again, I wanted to have a school theme. So we all know kind of snow days when schools are closed and everyone is kind of snowed in. So I created this idea where the little village that Edward and Noah live in was snowed in completely on this snow day when everything was closed, including the school. And they find a dead body, and it must be that no one can get in or out of the village. So one, the murderer must still be in the village somewhere, and two, the police can't get through. So in a little bit of a kind of homage to recent technology that we've all used during COVID, Edward has to communicate with the police and kind of help the police via kind of Zoom type technology while they're online trying to get through. So it's the second in the series. Most people read the series in order, starting with Miss Finch. If you did particularly fancy a winter mystery, this could be read on its own. There are minor spoilers from Miss Finch in it, You might prefer to read them in order, but if you did just want a murder mystery, you could. I know a few people have started with this one. Then in between that, in spring last year, I released a little mini novella, The Mystery of Jackson King, which is about a third to a quarter length of one of my novels. It was a short mystery, an idea I had that I was really keen on, but I thought didn't quite fit a full novel, in that rather than being a kind of murder mystery with kind of a ready-made group of suspects, a lady comes to Edward, having heard about his kind of notoriety in solving local murders, to say that her husband was found dead recently at the bottom of a cliff. It's been ruled as suicide, but she is convinced that it's murder. And again, there's the teaching link that the guy who the guy who's died is a supply teacher, so the kind of teacher that goes around different schools teaching, and Edward kind of knows him a little as well, and that inspires him to get involved in the mystery. And then more recently, in summer this year, it's probably my personal favourite of all my books, and the one that I think is kind of the best. One, because I think my kind of writing has developed as I've been kind of writing a few different books, and two, because it's a subject that's kind of closest to my heart. This is Death in the Closet, and it's about a topic that's always interested me. The fact that there are no openly gay top flight footballers, Premier League footballers in our country. Until recently, there weren't any current top players in the world, but an Australian guy came out a couple of months ago. But this is about a guy who's about to come out as gay Premiership footballer, and he is found murdered as he is about to do that. So then again, Edward and Noah get kind of dragged into the investigation, and it's why this guy has been killed. So they're my books that are out currently. I'm currently working on my next one, which is my most ambitious Edward novel so far. It's going to be out in spring, and this is, I think, an exclusive for you, Donna. This is going to be a serial killer Edward mystery called 10 Green Bottles. Again, is very inspired by Agatha Christie. Again, novels like And Then There Were None and The ABC Murders, where basically, if you've read the first couple of books, you'll know that Edward, among other things, was an aspiring author who wrote a book when he was younger and got he suffers from kind of anxiety, and he was anxious about it and never ended up publishing it. And this book is just sitting there, and it was, because he's an Agatha Christie fan, it was called 10 Green Bottles, and is a kind of homage to Agatha Christie, but his own version. What the premise of this book is, for a number of reasons, he finally gets his book published, 10 Green Bottles, and he's at the launch night for the book, and he gets sent a note, which is actually in real life, but it's mimicking the plot of his own book, which is a list of 10 people that Edward knows that are apparently going to be murdered, but he doesn't know who, in what order. So he's given the list of 10 names of people he knows, and he doesn't know when they're going to be murdered, or if this is even serious, or if it's a hoax. And that's the premise of the next book, which is out in spring. Like I said, it's my most ambitious one, I would say, so far, because I haven't done a serial killer type one yet. And that is, it's kind of, I think a serial killer type novel is really kind of pushing the boundaries of kind of cozy type mysteries that I write. So, but I'm really, I've been enjoying writing it, and again, it's my most ambitious one so far, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
Definitely. And actually, ashamed to say, out of all of your books, I haven't read the Snowday Murders.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that today. I didn't realise that. Because I remember when you read Death in the Closet, and I know you read Miss Finch when we first met. I didn't realise that you'd not read it. Sorry, I can't mention a book without kind of holding it up as a blatant plug. Sorry, but yeah, I didn't know until the other day when you read Death in the Closet. I mean, you could definitely go back and read it. There's nothing in Death in the Closet that spoils it, apart from the kind of main few, like Edward and his family and a couple of close friends. The set of characters in it are completely different from Death in the Closet. So, yeah, and look, kind of winter and Christmas type mysteries, well, books of all genres are really popular this time of year. So I'm actually going to be doing next week. I think it's going to be going on a 99p offer, one of the 5-day Amazon offers, probably just the week before Christmas, about this time next week. So anyone that is watching this and wants to read it, maybe hang on and get yourself a bargain next week.
When you put that up, then I'll share it in my group as well, just to remind everyone.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
I can't even remember if I've got it, but I will definitely read it in between my blog tour gap.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Like I said, I didn't know you'd not read it. I thought we talked about it, but I must have got mixed up.
I know. What sort of fan am I? Huh? Rubbish.
Bless you.
Although the Death in the Closet is one of my favourites, so you know.
Yeah, because you were on the art team and proofreading team for that, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it and still love it. Thought it was amazing.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
If you were to take any of your characters out of any of your books out for a meal, who would you choose and what would you ask them?
Oh, it would definitely, without a doubt. Actually, I've just thought of another one. I was going to say definitely Noah. So Noah, I mentioned briefly, for anyone who doesn't know, he's Edward Crisp's teenage librarian sidekick who does have Asperger's. I say Asperger's. We don't usually use that term now. We usually just say it's another form of autism. But it's Asperger's in that he can communicate quite well in terms he's very confident, but he just says what he thinks. He kind of has these kind of obsessive tendencies in terms that he gets kind of infatuated with murder mysteries, and his kind of blunt way of dealing with things and thinking that he's actually in a real life murder mystery is a source of a lot of the comedy of my books. And I know he's popular with a lot of readers. So he would definitely be my choice. And you could ask him any number of questions and probably say goodbye to your whole night. He talk to you for hours. But I personally, I would ask him out for a meal, and I would probably ask him about which he thinks are the best Agatha Christie books. And then that would probably be our night set, having a debate about that.
Yep. And probably for a couple of days after that, I would think.
And then my second choice that I thought of after I said Noah, another kind of popular character who's kind of used for comical purposes, is Edward's mum, Linda Crisp. So Edward's mum runs the local pub in the little village that the books are set, Chalk Gap. And she's kind of very gossipy. She says things how they are. She's very overly protective of Edward. And again, she provides a lot of the comedy of the books. So I would take her for a meal, and I would ask her, what is the latest gossip in Chalk Gap? And again, that would probably see us through for the whole evening.
Out of the books you've written so far, what's been the most fun scene to write and what's been the most difficult?
Oh, that's a good question. My answer, the most fun scenes to write is, I always love writing the murder reveals, and I've done them kind of quite differently each time. So the first one was just a one-to-one between Edward confronting the murderer. The second one, Snow Day Murders, was the Poirot / Death in Paradise style, gathering all the suspects and eliminate everyone one by one and doing the reveal. And then the third, the Death in the Closet, was kind of somewhere in between those two. And as well as being the most fun, they probably are the most difficult as well, because you have to kind of go back and retrospectively check that you've included all the clues. Because one thing I hate when sometimes I've noticed myself is when there's a clue that you notice or a clue that's there that isn't referred back to. So I kind of write a list of all my clues as I go along, and it's all when I'm writing the payoff, like the murder reveal scene, I have to kind of tick off that I've included everything. And then you always think of clues as well that are kind of really good that you've not included. You have to go back and plant them in. And I think that probably is the most difficult kind of element of writing murder mysteries, kind of making sure all the kind of clues and everything tie up. And as a kind of bonus answer to that question, linking back to Edward's mum, a little running joke I have and these are kind of really fun scenes to write, is that she slaps somebody different in every novel. So in the 3 novels so far, Linda Edwards' mum has slapped someone different. So I've kind of feel like I've set myself up now. I've always kind of think of an excuse for her to slap someone, but they're always kind of great fun to write. And especially because she's a pub landlady, it's always a bit of a like Peggy Mitchell, get out of my pub kind of moment.
Oh, I never noticed that. I'm gonna have to look out for that. One of my most fun new questions to ask is, if you were to be a fictional killer, how would you kill your victims?
Oh, that's great for, because obviously you interview across all genres, but that's great for murder mystery writer. I love that. How would I kill my victims? In a way that I wouldn't get caught, I assume you mean.
Well, I mean, however you like. If you just want to go absolutely psycho and stab someone, you can do that too.
Well, no. Well, as a cozy mystery writer, and both in my own reading as well, I avoid kind of gore and blood and guts, and I wouldn't want to be there on the scene. If I was kind of having to be a murderer, then I would probably do it the kind of cowardly, like non-graphic, non-blood way, in that I would poison someone and make sure that I wasn't there on the scene when it happened.
And I love how every author knows the answer without really having to think about it. Very few are like, oh, I don't know.
There's also the joke, isn't there, that if you ever check like your author's search history, and then I saw a comment last week on one of the groups that said the authors that you need to be afraid of are the ones that don't have to research it, which really made me laugh.
What would be the most incriminating thing on your search history?
I don't know, because of the type of murder mysteries I write, I don't always have to kind of research a lot in terms of the actual kind of methods of crime. Most of the things I research are kind of like police stuff. Again, my books aren't overly procedural, but because there's police officers in it and Edward kind of ish works alongside the police, I kind of sometimes have to like check police stuff. Maybe I've looked up kind of a couple of ways about kind of how people are poisoned or checked a specific poison. But again, I have a great Agatha Christie A to Z of poisons book, so I kind of borrow from those as well. But most of my search history relating to my writing would probably be mostly kind of looking up police procedural type stuff.
Taking away Agatha Christie, if you were to be fictionally murdered, who would you want to investigate it?
So I'm not allowed to say Poirot or Miss Marple?
Nope. Too obvious.
Again, I bet lots of authors say this because this series is very popular, but definitely Poe and Tilly from M.W. Craven's series.
Actually, you're the first person that said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love those books. I only kind of discovered them after I'd written my first couple, but there are quite a few similarities, I think, between kind of Tilly and Noah in terms of their kind of bluntness and kind of potentially, even I know Tilly isn't officially diagnosed with anything, but in terms of kind of potentially being on the spectrum and the way their outlook and their kind of innocence. So I will definitely go with those two.
Yeah, they are just great, aren't they? They really are. And Tilly is just wonderful. I love reading.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Did you read the little Christmas short story that Mike posted in the UK Crime Book Club, I think?
I've not read that one yet. I read the last one, Set in Waterstones, the one that was in the hardback exclusive. And I've read the little series of short stories, the cut short. I think this new Christmas one is the only one I haven't read, so I need to read that. Thank you for the reminder.
It's short, but it's very funny. It's very good.
Yeah, there was a link to it, wasn't there? I saw the other day. Yeah, it's kind of in my kind of mental checklist of things to do.
Yeah, I know. There's always so much to keep up with. Considering he releases one book a year.
I know.
Apparently, you have to be patient. I get told off. When you're editing, what's your most overused word or phrase?
Oh, there's loads, I think. I don't know really. I always know there's loads when I check, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I use a kind before it goes to my editor. I use like an editing program, and it tells you all the words that you have used too much. And I always look at it like, oh God, I've done that again. And you, even when you make a conscious effort to say, right, I'm not going to overuse this word, and I think you just do it subconsciously. When you read back, you're like, oh shit, I've used that word like 20 times.
Yeah. Now you've been writing a while, is there something that you enjoy more now than you did when you started, and is there something you dislike more now than when you
That's
started?
a good question as well. I really like these new questions. They're really interesting. I don't know. I think I've got more used to editing. Wasn't massively keen on editing at first, but I've got more used to it, and I quite like what I do. I might mention this in interviews before, but I write on Microsoft Word on my computer, but also I have the Microsoft Word app synced to my phone, so I can type on my phone as well, and then it syncs up where you're up to between the devices. And what I've got in the habit of doing is doing my own kind of proofreading / mini editing that evening of what I've wrote that day. And because I do that from my phone, kind of lying in bed, and I feel like I've cracked kind of the best way to do that now, it kind of makes that task of kind of editing or kind of checking what you've written that day a bit more palatable, because I've kind of got a good method of doing it, like on my phone in bed. And what was the other part of the question?
What do you dislike more now than when you started?
I can't think of anything really. Not dislike, because I love it, but since I went part-time at work, I have to treat writing as more of a job. Like, it was kind of, I was working full-time, and it had always been my dream, so it felt like a hobby. But now, in a good way, because I'm glad I'm able to kind of do it while working part-time as well. But now, when when you're having your bad days when you can't be arsed, you kind of make yourself sit down and write, because obviously I took a pay drop to go do part-time hours at teaching, and kind of carrying on writing and kind of bringing money in is kind of a bit more of a necessity than I thought it would have been when I was first doing it as a hobby. So I think the actual process of writing itself, I still love it, but it sometimes feels a bit more like a job than it used to.
Do you still get much time to read?
Yeah, I do. I go through kind of phases really, where I'll go through a phase where I'll read loads and loads, and then I'll go through a couple of months phase, which I'm in at the minute, where I don't read much, but I'm kind of listening to music lots. So you might have seen me say I got a record player for my mum and dad for my birthday, and I've started collecting vinyl. And I've really got back into, on the back of this, kind of listening to all old 80s music and 80s albums and stuff. I've been collecting it. So in terms of choosing what you do with your spare time, I've kind of been doing that a bit more than I've been reading in the last couple of months. And then a recent example from the last week, it's obviously getting near Christmas, and I've got obsessed with watching like Christmas movies and rom-coms on Netflix. So I've been doing that most of this week as an example. I don't know whether people are like this, but I feel like my kind of interests kind of get quite tunnel vision for a while, where I'll spend a couple of months reading for ages, then I'll spend a couple of months where I'm really into listening to music, then another couple of months where I'm into kind of watching movies. But I've still got hundreds on my to be read list, and I'm sure I'll be reading some over Christmas.
Do you find as a writer that you read differently?
I don't know, because I've always read quite critically anyway, because I'm an English teacher and my degree's in English literature. So I've always kind of read quite critically anyway. But my favourite books are the ones that make you forget to read critically, and forget that you just get so kind of drawn into them and you want to know what happens that you forget. And one thing I do like doing, especially as a murder mystery writer, is reading murder mysteries for a second time, or when I know who the killer is. So you could, once you know who the killer is, you can look as a fellow writer how they plot things, how they kind of hide things in plain sight, and so on. So if I'm reading for pleasure, I'm probably kind of reading as a reader. But if I want to read deliberately as a kind of a critical writer, I would probably be going back to read something I've already read to look at, oh, this was great, how did they do
it? What's the best thing you've invested in as an author?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think you're probably the kind of traditional meaning of this question is that you mean investing money, but the answer I'm going to give is kind of investing my time in groups like this and a couple of similar ones on Facebook. And for me, the kind of interaction with other readers and fellow authors and all the people I've met through groups like yours is really the kind of best investment I've made. Because otherwise, because writing can be such a solitary profession. And I was so surprised when I got into it that there's all these groups and readers on Instagram and so on, and people that you can kind of interact with. And I think without that, it just wouldn't be the same, and I wouldn't love it as much. And it's been one of my favorite things of being an author. So I know you probably invested in money, but in terms of kind of investing time wise, I think that's definitely the best investment I've made.
That's why I didn't specify, because I know generally it's probably more time than money that matters.
Oh, I bet every single person's giving that answer.
No, actually, you're the first person I've asked.
Oh,
so
really?
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying out some new questions on you to keep you on your toes and to keep
Am I
me
the
on my
guinea
toes.
pig for your new questions?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Some of them I've asked before.
Okay.
Obviously, you're not watching my interviews. I'm most offended. It's fine.
I do. I watch some of them when it's an author that I know I kind of like the stuff. Again, it comes down to time, doesn't it?
I know. I don't even watch them.
Oh, bless you.
Never watched one, and that's fine.
Really?
Yep.
I suppose you've lived through them, haven't you? But
yeah, I couldn't. Oh no. Yeah.
Same as when I've been interviewed by you or other groups. I watch it for a minute, but then I usually cringe too much and think, "Oh God, is that what I look like? I sound like?" Then click off it.
Yeah, I know. Just hell no. There's no need for me to watch it, so I won't. Didn't even watch my Montague Island that I done with Joe Singleton back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh wow, really?
Yeah, that was good fun though.
Oh.
Yeah, but I lived it. It was fine. I know what happened. I was there. So some not quite so evasive personal questions. If a genie was to give you 3 wishes, what would you choose?
Oh, great one. I never like kind of wishing for money stuff. So I'm not going to wish I was rich or anything, but I'm going to wish that I had the kind of money and means to be able to be a full-time writer, which is something I'm slowly working towards. And I've said I'm delighted that I got to do it part-time and just work part-time so soon. And it's with the kind of support of my lovely partner that I'm able to do that. But obviously one wish would be that I could money wasn't an object and that I could write full-time straight away and I'd be able to kind of invest more time in it and get it off the ground quicker. So that would be one wish, but you want 3. Another one, and it's quite seasonal, I guess. I wish that my favorite part of Christmas food is pigs and blankets, and I wish pigs and blankets was a thing all year round.
I like that.
Yeah, I love them. I always make sure we get extra ones because I need to have about 20 on my Christmas plate.
Nice. One more.
And 3. I love ABBA, and they recently reunited, and I'm going watching the hologram tour thing they're doing in London next year. But I wish that I got to see them actually live in person.
Cool. I like that. What's the funniest place you've ever woken up?
Oh God. I'm quite boring for things like that. I don't really have any kind of stories like kind of the Hangover movie or anything. I always used to, when I lived in Wigan and commuted in Manchester, I always used to fall asleep on the train. And I got it timed to an art that I knew exactly how long the train would take when it would get in my stop. So I would always set my alarm for like a minute before the train got into my stop and sleep the whole way. It never went wrong and I never missed my stop.
Nice. I would totally be the person being woke up at the end of the line. Like, once I'm asleep, that's it. And who would you least like to be stuck in a lift with?
Oh, that's not a very nice question. I avoid in all my kind of Facebook posts and stuff. I always avoid kind of talking anything political, but obviously with all the stuff in the news made me so angry this week that kind of this week especially, I'm going to say Boris Johnson or any of the kind of those kind of top Tories. I've been so mad about that whole everything that's going on with them, and they're just kind of constantly taking us for mugs. I think that's all I'll briefly say, because I don't want to offend anyone, and I'm not very political massively in my views, but it's really kind of made a lot of us irate this week, along with lots of other things they've done. So for this week especially, I would say our good old Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Yeah, I think he would be a popular choice, and I think even the least political people this week would be fuming. So yeah, I could understand that. So apart from your book that you're bringing out hopefully in the spring, are you working on anything else? And do you know what you're going to do next?
No, it's a tricky one, because my 10 Green Bottles is a definite plan, and then for my book in the second half of the year, I've got a couple of ideas. I'm not sure. It's no secret to say that it won't be an Edward Crisp. I think I've said in a previous interview that after this 10 Green Bottles, it's my kind of biggest, most ambitious Edward book, as I've mentioned. And Edward won't be going away for good, but he'll be having a little break after that, because the events of that book kind of leave things at a natural pause. And it's a kind of quite a big book plot-wise. I've got a couple of different ideas, because cozy mysteries they touch on a couple of other genres that I'd like to try. So I mentioned briefly before when I was talking about research that they touch on a little bit kind of police procedural type stuff, and I'd love to have a go reading kind of great authors like M.W. Craven that I mentioned and others. I wouldn't mind having a go at police procedural, and I've got an idea for a kind of cozy-ish police procedural series that I'm thinking of working on. But the other thing that I really want to do, which is I'm not sure, because it's a bit more of a big step than writing police procedural, because that's still in crime. But I really want to, at some point in my career, write a rom-com, because as I mentioned before briefly, I love them, and if I didn't start writing cozy murder mysteries, I would be writing rom-coms. And again, a bit like police procedural, there are elements of rom-com in a cozy mystery. Like I have had kind of romance elements in it with Poor Edward's love life, and that is a kind of genre that I like watching movies and reading books of, and there's not really enough male rom-com writers anyway, so that is certainly, if not kind of this year, certainly in the pipeline as a genre that I would like to try. But I know it's many authors just writing one genre, or they use a pen name, which I don't think I would use a pen name, but I do recognise that it's a bit more of a departure from writing a crime book. But that is certainly something that I definitely would like to do, and definitely I'm sure you'll see from me in the next couple of years.
Fabulous. And are you planning on doing any literary events next year, or attending any?
I don't know, because I spoke to you. I was too late to register for that Tales on Trent one that you're involved in. I know I missed that. I wouldn't mind as a reader going up to Harrogate, because I know you and lots of others said it was great last year, but I might well do that.
Yeah, that's all I want to know. I just want to meet you.
My other thing I want to do, but it's clashed with work every time so far, is the annual Agatha Christie Festival in Torquay. So I definitely want to go and do that as well. But so far I've not been able to, because the main events of it have been on days that I've been teaching. But that's certainly something. Again, being able to write full time and not have to kind of teach as well, that would be open up your availability to be able to go and do more things like that.
Awesome. Well, I can't think of any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything else that you want to tell us before we sign off.
No, I'll just end with a cheeky plug. So if you've never heard of me,
Absolutely.
and you've never heard of me and want to start reading my books, the first one is Who Killed Miss Finch. They are a series. They could at a push work as a standalone. So if you fancy a winter mystery, The Snow Day Murders is probably my book that fits this time of year the most. And look out for this in the next week or so being an offer for a few days on Amazon at 99p for the ebook version. Otherwise, it's been lovely to talk to you as ever, Donna. This was mainly, like I said, this is the first time I've done an interview where I've not got a new book out straight away. So this is more my it's like when you watch all the chat shows and all the celebrities are on, and it's like, well, what have you got to plug? For the first time, I've not got anything immediately new to plug. This was my kind of remind people that I exist interview. And just it's nice this time of year as well to check in with everyone. And on that note, I hope kind of all members of Donna's group and all readers have a lovely Christmas. And I look forward to bringing out my next novel, 10 Green Bottles, in spring 22.
Yep, and thank you too, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Always nice to catch up with you, Donna, both in the interview and our little chat beforehand as well. So that's it from me. So cheers. Thank you, Donna, and I will see you all very soon.